Hello, Capital H listeners. Today, I'm joined by Meghna Punhani, Chief People Officer at Eightfold. Meghna is a people-focused leader with a track record of guiding organizations through rapid growth and change while building inclusive and high-performing cultures. In this episode, we'll talk about what she's seeing and doing in her role as Chief People Officer, how she's bringing those priorities to life within Eightfold, and what she's hearing from her peers across the market as she shares Eightfold's story externally. Meghna, welcome to Capital H. Really appreciate you taking time to spend with us. Can we start by just introducing yourself to our listeners, a little bit more about your background and what led you to being the Chief People Officer at Eightfold?
Absolutely. First of all, Kyle, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Regarding my background, so I do not consider myself a traditional Chief People Officer in any way. However, I did start my career early on as a developer. So I have done coding, product management, program management, a lot of other things, but HR very early on. But then Google happened many years ago, and I joined them in HR tech. And built a lot of internal products for them, their comp planning, performance management, and many other things. And at some point owned their entire tech portfolio for HR. So I spent, I would say, 10 years at Google in HR. In very early days, there were only about 3,000 employees at that time. So saw up close and personal a lot of how an innovative culture should be built and people practices that really worked in a tech environment. And that helped me just shape my own philosophy about people and cultures and so on and so forth. And 10 years in HR, and then I moved to the CIO world. My last role at Google was running strategy operations for the CIO leaders there. And bringing the two cusp together really helped me shape my thoughts around systems and people, as I said. Moving on to Palo Alto Networks, I had a similar role, dual role, both for the Chief People Officer and the CIO. But then I felt like my Silicon Valley career isn't complete if I don't work for a startup here. Sure. And having seen the growth at Google from 3,000 to 160,000, obviously I was itching to work for something small, or I could have worked for 10 years at Google and retired from there also. But the itch to work for some smaller company was really there. So I moved on to working for startups, and just recently, almost about a year ago now, joined Eightfold as a Chief People Officer. And one of the reasons I feel that the role is perfect and I love being here and why Ashu really brought me in as well is because it's just phenomenal to be in this role for an AI native company that's building for HR, and they're really building the product for my persona. And so that really helps define the product, implement it internally. We drink our own champagne, and so we implement the product and use it internally quite a bit as well. So I get to kind of test it out for our users before we get it out there for our customers. And then at the same time, really spend a lot of time with our customers too. So it's really an intersection, I feel, of like people and technology and business strategy, something that I love to do. And so I feel like I've landed in the right place.
Yeah, which is fantastic. It's always good when you feel like you've landed in the right place. And I feel like uniquely with your experiences leading into this moment, it's almost the right blend of what you would want in a Chief People Officer in 2025, right? At the pace of change of technology, the AI and automation capabilities, the need to design work, re-engineer work, kind of whatever terminology your organization is using, that blend is kind of perfect for the moment. So, Meghna, can you share a little bit more about, you took that journey, you're now at Eightfold for a year. What are some of your priorities as the Chief People Officer as relates to both your own people function, right, and taking that function in a direction that continues to support kind of growth for Eightfold, and also the role you play within the broader enterprise and what it looks like to build an AI native company?
Absolutely. So there are many facets to it, but let me just focus on one or two of them that are most important, I feel. So first of all, I think to lead an AI native organization, I feel like the transformation needs to start from within. You yourself as a people team need to be interested in AI, need to be interested in automation, really think about technology end to end also. And on the other hand, I also believe technology is easy, people are hard. And so how do you bring that facet together in today's day and age to life and kind of show it in action? So first of all, to have an AI-enabled workforce across the company, I feel I need to start with the AI-enabled HR team. If you speak the language, you drive with a lot of credibility, and having that fluency is very important. So when I came in, we spent a lot of time talking about why this is important and why we should not fear that and really dabble with it as much as possible. So today, my first 3 months, I told my team, I'm not going to review any proposals or any presentations if they spend time creating that presentation on their own, for example, right? Like they spend more than 15 minutes on it and did not really end up using a tool that is present outside to just put your thoughts into a slide deck. I will just blatantly reject kind of reviewing that. And I think that I feel like set the precedence with the team quite a bit. It's more important to spend the time about the thoughts, what is important about a program or whatever you're running, than actually creating slide deck for that matter, right? It's a simple example, but for a team that has not been thinking about AI so much, really enables them to think about it a whole lot too.
Yeah. And Meghna, maybe if I interject for a moment there, so much of what I hear at other organizations when they're thinking about how do I just get people comfortable with using quote unquote AI, right? Because people can look in the headlines and like, what is this going to do? Or people might think, wherever they are in their career relative to exposure to technology, new technology, just like, oh, I'm not sure how to learn, right? What you've done is remove the barrier to entry, right? And made it almost, I expect you to go do this. And here are simple ways to start. Build a presentation, right? Just something that you're going to do anyways during the week. Use a tool to help build a presentation.
Absolutely. And at the broader level, I think we have a unique opportunity and we are placed really well, especially because we are a native product.
Yeah.
Our engineering and product talent at Eightfold is fantastic. We hire from the best places, the best experiences folks have had. So we have this like wealth of knowledge around us where we can rely on those teams to really build with them and co-create with them. So I was very happy to see even within my own team, we were the first team within the company as far as like internal functioning is concerned, releasing our own agents and so on and so forth from like as far as G&A is concerned. But that has taken off and most of the company is working on that right now, which is pretty fantastic. And from financial planning to account planning to HR, whether it's bots or agents, right? We're all doing it, which just, I feel like people are happy doing it also because they're no longer afraid of it and they're using it on their day-to-day lives.
So Meghna, a year in, you kind of went through, as you shared, kind of this 90-day period of learn the team, learn the organization, start to build the right mindset and behaviors and approach to thinking about being an AI native HR function in support of building an AI native business. Now that you're at the end of year one and looking forward to year two, what are a couple of the things that you're looking to build on into year two, both for how your HR people team continues to evolve and how that ties into the business priorities?
Yeah. So because we build for people function, they're just all the products that we release outside from Eightfold goes through a lot of rigor internally as well. And my team leads a lot of that with our product team and engineering. And so if you look at, for example, some of the recent things that we've even launched, right? We're dogfooding that internally. AI Interviewer, for example. So my own team is using AI Interviewer, which is pretty phenomenal. Actually, I was blown away when I saw that because you're talking to AI and AI is taking your interview. It's almost like a digital twin of you sitting in front of you and doing that. And our team comes in, they send out interviews really on a Friday evening. By the time we come back Monday, all interviews are done, right? And you get a real report of which candidates are good and which are not. And so that really helps us really define our own function in terms of like how can we use AI more and enable ourselves a lot more as well. Same is true for us rolling out digital twin functionality internally as well, where whether a colleague is present or not, we're a global workforce and we are able to ask questions and really have a lot of contextualized information about the business, the strategy, and all of that at our fingertips versus like waiting for people or kind of bothering them while they're working, while they're in meetings or on leave and so on and so forth. So I still feel that we are as good as the product is. I still feel that we are at the early stages of that, and there's so many possibilities with it. I see internally we are having a lot of impact within our own team in terms of the things that we are hiring across Eightfold. So, running Eightfold for Eightfold as a program, I would say, is the biggest priority for me because one, it enables us to be a better HR function. And then two, it helps us test products and let it be better for our customers. I spend a lot of time with our customers also because, first of all, they are my fellow peers, right? It's just always a delight to be learning from other fellow professionals as well. And it's a huge priority to continue to basically make sure that our products really deliver for them. And I'm fortunate to be sort of leading that internally within the team and kind of driving that for them.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a couple different things I want to dig into from what you just shared, Meghna. First, I want to start with the kind of Eightfold for Eightfold story. I think folks who follow closely within the HR technology or broader technology marketplace in the last 12 to 18 months have been hearing from more organizations the phrase customer zero, client zero, right? Really a great example of where an organization like Eightfold, who builds a product for others, tests it on yourself internally, right? Deploys it internally first and say, these are the lessons we learned. This is how we're using it. These are some considerations for you, our broader set of customers. So can you share a little bit more about kind of what that looks like in the day-to-day for how you, as the chief people officer, work with engineering to say, here's something that you should think about, right? Because when I speak with other chief people officers across different industries and sectors, there's always the acknowledgement that the HR domain is complex, right? There are different regulatory requirements depending on the geographies you operate in. There are requirements depending on the industry you operate in. Healthcare versus energy versus software kind of has some different workforce requirements to consider. And so I think sometimes there can be some hesitancy to approach the topic of AI in HR from some people depending on where they sit in the world, right? But uniquely as the chief people officer engaging directly with a product and engineering team, you bring that domain expertise to help inform the build of something that should put other chief people officers more at ease on why this is ready and fit for the HR domain and why it's ready to drive impact for the workforce. So what does that look like in a day in the life?
Early days at Google, I would say I learned two things. Number one, always use your product before you put it out there,
Sure.
right? So dog fooding was a big deal, right? And I feel like I was raised with that in many ways, right? So I just really take it to heart. I've always worked with product and engineering teams also. So I have to say it does come with a lot of ease as well. The other thing that I learned there was that functional expertise is absolutely critical. However, there is also a lot of positive in someone looking at a problem from fresh perspective, someone who has not solved that problem, right? Innovation happens with that. Now, I'm not saying that functional expertise should go away because people have spent years and years like learning things that obviously are very important and we need to pay attention to. But when you hire people with high cognitive ability, creativity, curiosity, desire to just learn and throw yourself in, you can actually create something very magical. So these two things have been just very important part of principles of how I lead as well. And I love to see that in any organization that I go. Definitely understanding how the technology is built and then using that and actually using it internally and then using that with when I'm having conversations with my fellow CHROs definitely drives credibility for that matter. Day to day, how it plays out with product and engineering is that we have offsites, we have design sessions, we have Slack channels that are built for like up to date, like quick information, right? Prototypes you sit down and review with the product and engineering and design teams for that matter. Sometimes even just a quick reaction from like, wow, this is fantastic and I'm going to use this every day to not really, I'm not quite sure how to even implement this in my day-to-day life. is sometimes just enough for them as well. And the other side of the spectrum is really going deeper into solving some of the HR related problems that they sit down and listen as well. So it's a huge spectrum, but normally it's done through like prototypes, design sessions, conversations, just lunch and learns, just sitting down and kind of talking to them and them looking at us using the product in action as well. Because my entire TA team, they use our internal product. In fact, I was telling you about AI interviewers. 78% of our interviews are going through AI interviewer right
Wow.
now. And it's phenomenal to see how people are reacting to it. And so, my team continues to send out snippets to product team also. Like, let me just give you a very quick example here, which I was so excited about the other day. We had an interview happening and we had a little video clip and we obviously blurred the images and everything before sharing with the team. There was this mom pacifying her baby while talking to our AI interviewer, Ava, we gave it the name, for her Q&A. And I don't think that comfort exists right now when two humans are talking and someone is on a Zoom doing that interview. And she was just easily able to pacify the baby, put the baby back to bed, and just continue the conversation without even like as if there is anything. And so there are like these snippets that show up every here and there, which I feel are so amazing. And then when you share that back with your teams as well, that leads them to drive more creativity and kind of endorses some of the work that they're doing also. So that's how it shows in action every day.
Yeah. Well, and what's, I think, really interesting to take that example and play that out just broader, right? People have lives, right? They have many things going on, whether that's caring for a child, an elderly parent, whatever's going on in the world. And as you're going through a job search, if you are going through a job search while employed, it might be challenging in a normal 8 to 5 to make the time to go interview, right? Or at least start the process because that maybe is constrained with when can you interview with another human, right? And if you have the ability to say, hey, I'm a morning person or I'm an evening person or on the weekend to engage with the AI interviewer to go a certain number of steps along the way, you might then through that process do it at your time, at your schedule in a way that kind of gets you ready. Because then in both directions, you can say, do I want to keep going? This company's been super, the tools they've deployed, I'm really excited, right? So it's a really interesting to think about how this is also beneficial for candidates from a candidate experience perspective, in addition to what the implications are for a TA team and a hiring manager.
Absolutely. You know what? Like, I feel that people are able to take interviews when they feel they are the best.
Yeah.
Because you could show up for an interview, whether it's on Zoom or in person. You may not really be feeling your best. You actually might be very talented and have the best experience. But you could, and as you said, you could take a pause. You could just do it when you feel it. And for some people, that's midnight. And for some people, it's like 5 a.m, right? And so the technology allows us to do that today, which is just so mind-boggling and phenomenal, right? It's just, I feel like we're living in the best age right now.
Yeah, I would probably be one of those 5 a.m. interviewers because when I'm out walking the dog, sometimes I'm taking phone calls from the West Coast to chat with people on the East Coast. So Meghna, probably uniquely to your role as well, as you mentioned, is the number of other CHROs, executives that you engage with, right? So can you share kind of from your vantage point, what are some of the themes or priorities that you're hearing from your peers across industries and sectors right now, given everything that's just going on within the world of work? And much of that focused on, hey, chief people officers, CHROs, help us navigate through this moment relative to the topic of AI and re-engineering work and designing work in new and different ways using some of the technology capabilities like those coming from Eightfold.
Yeah. So interestingly, we are fortunate that we have, I feel like about the Fortune 500 companies, I think about 80 or some of our customers also. So we have the advantage of working with large enterprises. And at the same time, we're obviously continuing to innovate that'll work for other sectors as well. So I see a spectrum of people when I talk to them. There are ones that are very eager to jump in and just try everything out. Then there are ones that are just still, they continue to be super afraid of it, right? And not because, it's new, of course, it's terrifying sometimes, right? To read all these headlines that are out there in terms of every company, the work will be automated through AI. And on the other hand, there are people who are just thinking that, okay, this is the best time for me to be in HR because I get to co-create a fresh like future of work and org design. But I think the fear is going down, but it's still there. And people still feel a little sort of bogged down by compliance and regulations and how. And I say to them is that we have to do that all responsibly, but it has to start somewhere. And if you don't start yourself, neither would you be behind, your entire organization, your entire business would be behind. And so, how do we do that responsibly? And it just keeps going back to how comfortable you feel with it. And I tell to CHROs, you're not alone in this. There's always a technology team in your company that is probably thinking about this a little bit more than you are. I mean, we in Silicon Valley and tech, obviously, there's just a lot of access to that. I don't say that's true for every single organization or company or business that's out there, but every team, we are all online these days, right? So every team has a tech team. And so how curious are you about the process, and how curious are you about spending the time in learning and just getting your own hands dirty? So I would say just co-create with those tech teams. Just sit down. And one thing I've learned about tech talent is that they love to teach. They would love to spend time and just explain to you how they're creating, because like everybody takes pride in that, right? So if we all drive with the point of curiosity in this process and are okay to experiment and not afraid to fail, I think we'll all do well. Because those are the skills I feel that are most critical in today's day and age. Functional expertise will die down eventually because you have so many tools and things to rely on to have that functional expert. Less and less people will be hiring analysts going forward because I can just feed that data and just get insights. But who are the connectors, the adapters? Who are the people who are just kind of looking at cross-functionally and connecting business to technology to people? I think those are the ones that are going to succeed. So while there is still fear, I believe that we can kind of get over it only if you drive from the point of curiosity and co-create with other people that have more comfort with it than you do.
Yeah. Well, and for those who are listening and maybe still have some nervousness, anxiety, fear, it could be as simple as borrowing the tactic you used first enroll at Eightfold for a period of time, not only for yourself personally, but for your teams. Use a tool to build presentations or pick something small to get started and comfortable and experiment, right? I think there's a wealth of different tactics that teams have used to start setting the expectation that this is something to learn, to use, to really kind of create that psychologically safe space that it's time to learn and play, right? Design things new.
Can I give one example of
Yeah,
when
go
I
for
saw
it.
this live in action? So we had one of our engineering leaders show up for my people team offsite. And in classic Eng fashion, they asked, what are some of the personal problems that you're kind of either dealing with or like day-to-day work that frustrates you? And some person on my team basically said that, hey, I go to these 3 different applications to figure out my workout schedule for the week. And I wish it was just all in one place, or the things that I like I wish there was a schedule out of it based on my preferences and so on and so forth. And so he made us take out our laptops and basically said, okay, what are these applications? What are these 3 apps? We mentioned the 3 apps and asked if this app provides APIs or not. 2 out of the 3 provided APIs. So we use Claude, I don't remember one of them, to build a prompt which will create a design for an application using those APIs. It was just words, prompt,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so we had a prompt now. And the prompt we ended up feeding in, I think, Dev Zero or like version 0, one of the applications that actually builds the software for you, and just fed it to that. And like in seconds, we had the application ready. It was like 80% ready to use. Probably the bells and whistles had to be added. And so since he prompted the team to tell me a business problem or a regular day-to-day problem you're trying to solve for, to have the application that's 80% ready, it was probably just 12 or 13 minutes.
Yeah.
But that was so phenomenal for the entire team to see, because now they know that even they can do this, right? It's not only engineering or product and other teams that are technical that can do it, because everything can be done with words. I really felt that was a turning point for my team. But it was basically just co-creation. It was basically just spending time with people who know more of this and can point you to areas where this can be done simply. And it was just a really good experience for our team in that
Yeah.
way.
And maybe even the best was starting with something in your personal day to day life, not even necessarily work related, right?
Absolutely.
As the entry point. So, Meghna, two more questions that I'd love to get your perspective on. First, as you look forward, where do you see the chief people officer role and people function continuing to evolve? There's been a lot of different things in the news over the last year and change that is talking about the HR and IT converging. Is that a new technical skill set mandatory or is it preferred? Kind of what is some of your perspective on where you see the domain of HR headed in the next few years?
Yeah. Of course, this is incoming of AI is much bigger than some of the other changes that we have seen, but it's not that we've not seen changes over the years, right? And I feel that people are the most adaptable. They change their behaviors over time as new technology shows up. And I see it day to day because we ourselves are rolling out HR products, right? So as we were talking about AI interviewer, for example, I do think the TA team feels like, oh my goodness, like what does this mean for me in the future? Right? But they keep doing it because they're learning so much in the process too. So when I look at our own products, I can see very well that the roles, the way we understand it today, will definitely evolve and change over time. But we also have to look at technology as the way it supports us and not necessarily the ones that is taking away a whole lot of things, away from jobs and so on and so forth. So I'm not worried about that as long as I feel people are, as I said earlier, like really driving from the point of curiosity and learning. I do think that the role of whether it's a TA leader or a HR business partner, I used one of the examples just the other day, is that if we really think about a role of a HRBP, there's a lot of time and effort that goes into coaching leaders. But what stops a leader from drafting an amazing prompt to Claude and saying, here's my situation, this is the problem I'm having, here's the history and the context of how I have interacted with a certain employee, how do I have this conversation, what's the best way to drive, or what should I be shooting for? And you could get a pretty phenomenal response of how to kind of manage that situation, right? And not just that, like talking points, frameworks, right? Like everything. And so, what is the role of HRBP then going forward? I mean, they do a lot more than this. I'm just using this as an example. But what is the role of HRBP? And we talked about talent acquisition leaders already. So we can all see that it is evolving quite a bit. But I feel like people who are able to use technology to their advantage and bring in their own human elements to drive the conversation and drive the business forward were the ones that are going to succeed. See, at the end of the day, nobody joins a company because the technology is amazing or they get to use a certain technology. It's a factor. But most of the people derive satisfaction in their career from, are they going to have growth? Is there going to be purpose? Are they going to enjoy working with the people that are around them or not? And so the role of HR never goes away as long as I feel the CHROs and other HR members are able to really use technology to their advantage to do more with it and spend their time just say with humans, helping them, guiding them, really helping define their purpose and growth for them as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. And I think, Meghna, the core of what you're sharing, right, is if people are comfortable, get comfortable with exploring new tools, work has always evolved. Roles have always evolved. That's what we're seeing happen right now. If you were to look 15 odd years back when cloud technologies were introduced, new roles evolved along with those, right? You look at any technological inflection point,
Mobile was another
new
one.
work and roles came about, right? And so that's another moment in time. And the more you get comfortable with it, the more you as an individual or as part of a team can help define what that new role and work might be at your organization.
I
Right.
have one amazing example for that from
Yeah.
Google. Also, I would say when we all use Docs, Google Docs right now, right, to collaborate with our colleagues. When it initially came out at Google, we were again dog fooding it internally and it was not launched externally at that time. And there was, I remember, a lot of discomfort in using it, not from everyone, but like a lot of pockets, because you're always thinking, okay, I'm in this document, it's half done. I've already shared it with my colleagues. Only if I can get like an hour to go hide away somewhere and write this beautifully, right? Put all my thoughts in a very organized way and then share it with people, I would show up a lot better. You feel you're being judged when they're looking at your half
Mm.
done work, right? When you know you can do better than that. And so there was a lot of discomfort initially. But over time, I think we all started to realize actually the comments that my colleagues are making is making this document, this business idea, this proposal a lot better because I cannot possibly think of all of these suggestions or proposals for that matter. And so that fear went away of being judged. And I kind of think about that moment. And now the same with AI also, it feels very uncomfortable, right? But then once you see the advantage of it, that's when you realize, okay, actually, it's not that. It's only going to make my life better. It's only going to make my ideas better. It's only going to create time for me so I can do better things for that matter. And so that example always stayed with me. And now we don't even think about when we are collaborating with our colleagues and whether it's Docs or any of those products for that matter. So something to keep in mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and Meghna, maybe final thought from you for leaders out there who are just getting started on this journey. What's one piece of advice you'd give them to think about?
I would say there are two things to pay attention to: curiosity and learning agility. If you can learn, and if you're just curious and you're asking the right questions, I think there's nothing in this world that can stop people. There's always a time to forget about the way we've always operated and really look at things from a fresh lens. So just be curious, be agile, continue to learn, spend time with people who are better at this than you are. We are always a sum of 5 people we spend time with. At this day and time, I think people who know this better, this technology better, do that, and you will be golden.
Love it. Meghna, thank you so much for sharing both your perspective, your background, your approach to leadership, and kind of the unique role that you have at Eightfold as the Chief People Officer, driving change internally using the product, informing the product roadmap, and engaging with HR leaders kind of external and within your customer set and the broader market. It's really inspiring to hear how you're leading the team through adopting new behaviors, challenging them to be curious, and really redesigning how work is done for the HR team and the broader organization. So thank you for joining us on Capital H. Listeners, I hope you enjoyed the session. Don't hesitate to reach out to Meghna and the team at Eightfold to learn more. And stay tuned for more insights coming to you from Capital H.
Thank you for having me, Kyle. This was fun.
This podcast is produced by Deloitte. The views and opinions expressed by podcast speakers and guests are solely their own and do not reflect the opinions of Deloitte. This podcast provides general information only and is not intended to constitute advice or services of any kind. For additional information about Deloitte, please go to deloitte.com/about.